The debate over whether or not Edward Snowden is a hero is going to be with us for years, decades to come. But there are some tangential debates that are now upon us, and they're kind of fun. One is, who might be worthy of a Pulitzer Prize? For those of you who don't know, Joseph Pulitzer was a publisher. He owned newspapers, and he was a fierce enemy of dishonest government. And he used his newspapers in crusades against dishonest government. And in his will, he stipulated that there would be awards and rewards for journalists, for people writing about travel, for people writing books. One of the key awards, of course, is the award, the Pulitzer Prize for journalists. Now, go back to square one. Joseph Pulitzer used his newspapers against dishonest government. Do you think that our government has been honest with us? So here's the question. If Edward Snowden is guilty of a treasonous crime, which is what the Department of Justice is alleging, then should the journalists who have reported what Edward Snowden leaked to them, should they be prosecuted criminally? Which there are people in the DOJ, they want to do that. Should they be praised, the journalists praised, for breaking the story? In other words, are the journalists in this equation enemies of freedom or the protectors of freedom? This begs a critical question. Why do we have a free press? Why, in the founding of this republic, was the First Amendment to the Constitution such a bedrock that it said that the freedom of the press is fundamental, right? That you can't take this right away. The freedom of the press is fundamental. Why did the founders think that that was so important? Because they believed that a free people had to have a free press, and that if you did not have a free press that was free to criticize its government, free to expose what government officials were doing, then by definition, you could not have freedom. Now, think with me about the countries that do not or did not have a free press. The Soviet Union did not have a free press. Red China, right now, does not have a free press. Saudi Arabia does not have a free press. Cuba does not have a free press. During World War II, Nazi Germany did not have a free press. If you want to do some great reading, read some of the works of William Shearer. He was a war correspondent from America and barely escaped Nazi Germany with his life. There was a warrant for his arrest, and somebody tipped him off, and he got out. He was in Nazi Germany covering elements of Nazi growth and expansion prior to the U.S. getting into the war. And every single thing he wrote had to be reviewed and approved by the Nazis. He wrote the book, by the way, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. If we are going to remain a free people, which is in question right now, we have to have a free press. I'm able to come to you on this television show and criticize Obama, criticize John McCain, criticize John Boehner, criticize Mitch McConnell, go after the Supreme Court, go after the NSA, because that's what a free people does. There are some people that have referred to a free press as the fourth branch of government. There are other people in oppressive states that view a free press as the fifth column. A fifth column is an expression that means the people that are within the geographic area that are going to rise up against the government. In other words, oppressive, tyrannical, godless governments have always hated a free press. And please understand that the ability to preach the gospel freely and the ability to have a free press are almost always intrinsically linked. In Red China, if you try and preach the gospel, you go to prison. In Saudi Arabia, if you preach the gospel and criticize Muhammad, you go to prison or you might go to your death. In the Soviet Union, if you preached the gospel or tried to have a free newspaper, you would go to prison. In Nazi Germany, if you preached the gospel in truth or tried to have printed material that criticized the government, you go to prison. So for those of us who value the ability to preach the gospel, remember, it was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who tried to stop the apostles from preaching. By definition, they did not want a free press. They did not want the apostles to be able to write, Jesus rose from the dead. And the tyrants in government in America and around the world that want to hide the evils and the spying and the trashing of our Constitution, they don't, not only do they not want Edward Snowden to be a hero, but some of them want these journalists to be prosecuted who have leaked these stories. I think that if the Pulitzer Prize goes to one of these journalists who leaked the story to us, that they deserve every bit of the accolades that come with the Pulitzer Prize. Because Pulitzer himself was an enemy of corrupt government. And I don't know, I don't think I'm a prophet, but I bet you that we've got a corrupt government right now. This is the voice of resistance.